I am super excited about our next guest. We got Walker Bormann, who's an assistant general agent for the Knights of Columbus in Iowa. And we've got Gregory Waddle, who's a financial advisor. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Now, I know a little bit about your background, but the audience doesn't. So, Walker, how did you get started?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Tom. How I got into the business was really quite simple. My dad had worked for the Knights of Columbus already for 10 plus years at that point. I saw the way he had ran our family working for the Knights of Columbus, where there was a lot of faith in our household. There was a lot of flexibility with his time. He rarely ever missed sports activities. And then obviously there was a potential for a professional income there. So I knew there was really no other choice for me than to join the Knights of Columbus and pursue the same passion that my dad had.
So second generation.
Absolutely.
Greg, what about you?
Yeah, so when I started looking at the Knights, it was kind of a non-traditional. I don't have a background or a family that's been in the insurance industry, but I have always sought to work for a company that has values that are aligned with my values. So that was always the most important thing when looking for a job. So after I graduated with my master's from Benedictine College, I ended up working in human resources for a few years. And then when that shift happened, about that time, the agent that had first sat down with my family with the Knights of Columbus and helped me put a plan in place to protect my family ended up moving on. And that's when I started talking to Walker's dad, Mike Bormann, about the Knights of Columbus and working for them in the insurance industry. And once I really learned and saw what the opportunity was there, I remember I was talking to my wife when I was looking for jobs. I said, if I could find a job where I meet with 2 to 3 people a day, I kind of prepare for that and then have that conversation. It just really brings me to life to have those conversations and see all those different people. And turns out, working in the insurance industry for the Knights of Columbus, it shares my values. I get to spend my days sitting down and meeting with 2 to 3 people and really getting to know and build community. So I've always been passionate about kind of finances and all of that. And my wife and I both have business degrees, so we treated our household as a business and our finances. And I was already having a lot of those conversations with our friends. So it was really a nice natural transition. It's been one of the most amazing things I've ever done.
And the Knights, it's a very unique organization. So tell me a little bit more about the Knights of Columbus and why they got in the insurance business to begin with.
Absolutely. Well, it's a really neat story, which I love sharing. In 1882, Father McGivney, a parish priest in New Haven, Connecticut, founded the Knights of Columbus. Now, we have to go back to this time and realize that there was a pretty dire situation facing especially the Irish immigrants. And Father McGivney's parish served the Irish immigrant community. A lot of these men ended up working dangerous jobs, which would often result in their death or disability, which would leave the family completely financially destitute. And these men didn't have a lot of opportunities or resources to put protection in place for their families. And so when they died, the family would be totally financially destitute. They wouldn't really be able to provide to keep the family together or to pay for the funeral. Well, Father McGivney did everything he could to help them. He was limited as well in his resources. When he was in seminary, his father passed away and he had to go home for a time and help provide for his family. And so he brought the men of the parish together and formed the first Knights of Columbus Council with the primary objective of providing for the members and their families in the event of a death, right? So it really started out as these men coming together and promising that if a brother knight passed away, they would pass the hat to make sure that family had what they needed to pay for the funeral, to keep the family in the home. And today we've grown to over 16,000 councils worldwide, and we continue Father McGivney's vision in an incredible way. I know, Walker, you've got something to share on that.
Absolutely. As you've heard, obviously, a little of the brief history of the Knights of Columbus there. I'd like to dive in the numbers a little bit on what the Knights of Columbus have really done over the course of time, from our humble beginnings there of 12 guys joining the Knights of Columbus in the basement of a church to over 2 million members here across 17 countries. Is really a remarkable thing. And as we kind of dive into the numbers here, it'll give you an idea of what the Knights of Columbus has done over that course of time. We've got $27 billion of assets under management with the Knights of Columbus, over $121 billion of life insurance in force. We're a Fortune 1000 company, as well as when you look at our charitable side, it's really an amazing thing to see that over the last 10 years, we've done more than $1.7 billion, and that's B with a billion, as well as 650 million man hours across those 10 years' time. So really remarkable numbers.
How do the Knights help families manage risk and build wealth? This show's all about helping people build wealth. How do the Knights do that?
Absolutely. Well, real quick before I dive into that, Tom, one of the things I wanted to mention is, the Knights of Columbus is a Fortune 1000 company, and Forbes has rated us in the top for permanent life insurance for 2023 and 2024. So it's really exciting to see what we've grown to. And then in 2015, we opened up our investments to the market as well. So we have created a wholly owned subsidiary of the Knights of Columbus Asset Advisors, which allows individuals to invest in the market in line with Catholic values. So we invest in line with the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops guidelines for Catholic investing. So again, that wholly owned subsidiary of the Knights of Columbus Asset Advisors allows us to participate in the market in line with values as well. And then on the life insurance side, in addition to the life insurance, the term insurance, the whole life insurance, survivorship, universal life products, we have also offer long-term care insurance, retirement annuities, and disability income insurance, right? And so we really have a lot of tools all in line with Catholic values that support the mission of the Knights and the charitable work that we do to help families protect their financial needs, right, in the event of an unexpected catastrophe, right? So to your question, how do the Knights of Columbus help these families manage risk and build wealth? Well, it starts with an initial sit down, that comprehensive financial needs analysis that's complementary to all our members, where we really understand, okay, here's what you have, here's your income, here's your assets, here's your your debts, and what are those needs in the event of an unexpected death. So really, and I know you say it in your book, right? Everyone should work with a financial advisor and have that check-in, that review. We provide that on an annual basis to the members, and that allows us to understand, hey, this is what's going on with your particular situation, and that allows us to come up with an insurance solution to help them address those needs.
So the one thing I look at is the parallels between your book, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and what the Knights of Columbus do. So in your book, you talk about protecting your wealth, building your wealth, and then distributing your wealth. And the Knights of Columbus, one of our slogans being guard, grow, and give. So guard, grow, and give, obviously you need to protect your income, you need to grow your income, and you need to give charitably. So that fits very well with our insurance program, our Knights of Columbus Asset Advisors through the growth of your investments, as well as our Knights of Columbus Charitable Foundation for the charity efforts. So there's a lot of neat things through the Knights of Columbus that have a lot of the same parallels with the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
And I know one of the things you do is you try to make sure that people have enough money in their emergency fund. How can a young person kind of ensure that they got enough money in that emergency or rainy day fund?
Sure, so it really starts off with discipline right off the bat. A lot of people, we'll sit down and obviously do our financial needs analysis, and a lot of people have a general idea where they want to go, but really no written plan. So if you can make a written plan to develop some sort of discipline that points in the direction of, maybe it's just putting away that 3 months of income to create that emergency fund. Maybe it's adding more to the 401k or building upon Roths, establishing permanent life insurance. There's a lot of opportunities there, and it really just starts with the discipline of, let's start with a plan, let's learn as much as we can about our clients, and then build upon that with a written plan of where we want to go for them.
Let's talk about budget, because I think that's a key part of what you do too, is help people budget, and we've talked about that in my book, and that you gotta, everybody's going to make millions of dollars, but how much are they going to keep? And in order to keep more, you got to be disciplined in your spending, and I think that's where the budget fits in. But go ahead and share with me about.
Well, absolutely. When we do that financial needs analysis, you sit down, you have that conversation. It's amazing to me how many times that conversation hasn't been had. Where's the money going? Every family should have an exercise of saying, I understand where the money's going, and once you name those dollars and know where they're going, you have a little bit more control over that, right? And so even just having that initial conversation so we can understand, hey, what's the need in the event of a death, or what's the need here? We need to understand what the expenses are, what are the bare bones expenses, and that's a good exercise that a lot of people haven't gone through, right? And so once you develop that, you kind of understand, okay, now we can find a way to set aside that money to have that emergency fund, that 3 to 6 months of living expenses. I know in my experience, my wife and I have found that having cash on hand has really helped us avoid bad debt and to also be able to take advantage of economic opportunities. So what we've been able to do is set that emergency fund aside and then created a plan using whole life insurance to set aside maybe a longer term savings goal to create a bigger bucket of cash that's a little more liquid and a little accessible in the event of an emergency or an economic opportunity. So we've established that savings habit, and then we've started to build that cash value for some of those long-term goals as well.
Now, I know the Knights do a lot with life insurance. Why is life insurance so core to what you do?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, obviously, is the protection of the family. When we're looking at things such as income protection, debt protection, and maybe it's even legacy planning, there's a lot of different areas where life insurance comes into the picture at, and it's one of the first things we need to do in every household is reduce risk. So if we can reduce risk by protecting that income to know, hey, no matter what happens to this husband or wife, that their financial plan is going to be met. It has to be done through life insurance, so it reduces risk and obviously allows for wealth to continue.
Right, I think about the importance of having a plan in place is paramount to have that foundation to say, okay, I've met the basics, everyone's secure, right? So we know that if something unexpected happens, there's going to be money there so they can continue to live that lifestyle, right? It's kind of like you were saying the other day, Walker. If you had a machine in the garage that printed money, would you insure the money or the machine, right? So life insurance is essential to protecting what you plan to build for your family in the event of your life, right? So that can be done through multiple types of life insurance, really depending on what your goals and your budget is, right? And so it's really valuable to when you're younger and healthier, it's easier to set up a plan, right? And then some of that plan, you can start to leverage that cash value, permanent life insurance, and use that to know that, hey, down the road, I'm going to have something in place regardless of my health that I started to build value in early.
You know, what's interesting is there's some people say, well, I don't need any life insurance. And I always tell people, you can't buy any insurance when you need it. You know when you need car insurance? When you cause a four-car pileup on the freeway. You try calling an insurance company. They won't issue a policy. You need homeowners insurance when there's a hurricane heading your way. They won't sell it to you. You can't buy any insurance when you need it. You're young, you're healthy, you can afford it. This is when you buy life insurance. So that's kind of what I used to say. Now, life insurance comes with some significant tax advantages, and so what are some of the tax implications, the tax advantages of life insurance?
Sure. So actually, one of the things I want to touch on the last question there was the legacy planning. And we had kind of touched on the income protection or debt protection, but there's also legacy planning, and that's where a lot of permanent policies come in place. Oftentimes a term policy is not going to be sufficient in the amount of time to protect someone to do that legacy planning. So you can look at things like our permanent whole life insurance, our universal life. We've got a second to die universal life program that are great for legacy planning. So when it comes to that protection, there's different uses for it, and legacy planning often requires some sort of permanent life insurance program at that point. As for the tax advantages, generally all life insurance can be passed on tax-free, so there's a lot of great benefits for that. There's great ways to accumulate the cash value at a deferred tax basis to where you don't have to pay taxes on any gains that would be there, as well as there's some liquidity to it through the use of loans as well as distributions later on for retirement there.
Yeah, I don't think people really understand all the benefits of life insurance and all the things it can do. And you can really buy money for pennies on the dollar. I'll give you an example. We have 4 kids, and we said, how much for their kids? My wife said, I don't know. What do you think? I said, well, if we bought a $1 million second to die, that's survivorship life, and name the 4 kids beneficiary, when we're both gone, they're going to get $1 million. That's $250,000 apiece tax-free. Mm-hmm. And the policy's totally paid up. It costs $150,000 for $1 million policy. So for 15 cents on the dollar, we get to transfer $1 million tax-free to our kids. But the best part is, who gets to spend the other $850,000? We do. So if somebody, and there's so many people, they want to leave their IRA or their 401k. Those are the worst dollars to leave the kids. Have that money go pay for a life insurance policy, and then you can give a much better, bigger tax-free death benefit. So how do annuities fit into what you're doing? Because I know the Knights offer mutual funds, but also annuities. So where do annuities fit in?
Right, well, annuities are an incredible tool because when I first started learning about annuities, and I hadn't heard about them before, the easiest way to frame it in my mind is it's basically a self-funded pension, right? You can turn them into an income stream in retirement, which really can give you a lot of peace of mind in retirement, having that guaranteed paycheck in retirement. And again, with an annuity, that income stream isn't tied to stock market fluctuations. So hey, regardless what's going on in the stock market, I'm going to have this guaranteed paycheck coming in. So you can kind of avoid some of that risk in your retirement income strategy, right? But while you're building it as well, our annuities are fixed annuities with a guaranteed return, right? So you can also use that as a diversification strategy, right? When you're looking at, well, the conservative portion of your funds could be put there to protect and grow on a guaranteed basis. And having some funds, right, part of that diversification strategy is to say, okay, well, depending on the stock market, which we expect to see fluctuations in, right, this fixed guaranteed annuity is going to preserve some of that wealth that allows you to wait for things to recover in the market. And it's the same thing when you turn that into an income stream, right? You're going to want to still have some money in the market to control for inflation, but that income stream allows you to buy that time, so you don't necessarily have to pull money out when things are down.
So what I'd like to add to that there is there's many ways of establishing an annuity program. The money doesn't always have to be an annuity to lead up to that point. Right. When you go to retire, you can move money from a 401k, from a Roth, from other areas. Even cash value life insurance can be turned into a guaranteed lifetime income there. So there's a lot of benefits to having that. And I think looking at your books in the past they've written about, pension plans are almost non-existent nowadays. If we can offer some sort of guaranteed income stream to supplement their income in retirement to maybe help with those costs of living expenses there, if we can do that, a lot of people are going to live a happier retirement while still allowing some money to be in the market and allow for some risk there. You reduce systematic withdrawal risk by having that guaranteed income stream, so there's a lot of great benefits to having that. And you can do it in maybe a 10-year settlement or a 10-year SPIA, single premium immediate annuity, where it's going to pay out for a period of time, or even a lifetime guarantee to it. So there's different ways you can structure the payout to where it's going to fit each and everyone's needs.
You know, there are still non-believers on life insurance, and there's still non-believers on annuities. And here's what I will say. The research is clear. BlackRock doesn't sell any annuities at all, but they say if you add an annuity to the portfolio, your portfolio can do better because you can actually take a little more risk with your risk assets if you've got a guaranteed base. Ernst & Young lined up exactly what you guys say. Ernst & Young looked for the perfect retirement portfolio. You know what they found? 30% whole life, 30% income annuity, 40% investments. They don't sell annuities. They don't have a horse in this race, but it's the numbers. It's really the math. And the research shows your portfolio will likely do better. You're likely to be happier in retirement if you have guaranteed income. And now the research shows you're likely to live longer as well. So I don't know how that could be bad for anybody, but there's always going to be people who just don't understand it. So now we talked a little bit about long-term care, but I know, long-term care is the number one thing that can wipe out a client's entire life's work, and many people aren't protecting against that risk, and it's a big risk. So how do you deal with that at the Knights?
That's one thing I'm very passionate about, Tom. In fact, my wife and I just put a long-term care plan in place in our 30s, right? So when you think about extended care planning, right, there's some risk there that you'd live a long life and that you'd have a need for someone to come and care for you, maybe accomplishing some of those activities of daily living, or you think about maybe when you have an issue with Alzheimer's or something, you need someone in the home to keep you safe. And I think a lot of people think of long-term care insurance as nursing home insurance, right? I'm never going to go to the nursing home. Well, having a plan for extended care is so much more than that, right? With the Knights of Columbus, our plan is comprehensive, so it can cover some of that in-home care that you might need, some of that assisted living, right? And so a lot of people are living longer, and they're experiencing some of this risk, right, that comes with longevity, and that, to your point, can decimate a savings. And so having a plan for long-term care insurance says, look, if I need care, not only do I have the permission to get care because I have a plan for it and I don't have to worry about, am I going to outlive my assets paying for this care, right? You've got a plan for care. It gives you the permission to seek and have that care. A lot of times you might still be living that same lifestyle, but you might need help with, maybe it's bathing or dressing or some of those activities of daily living. And this would allow you to have someone come into your home, and your lifestyle might be the same as what you've planned your assets to cover. And this extended care plan can come in and say, all right, this added cost on top of that is going to be covered, and you get to continue to live that lifestyle.
So the one thing I want to add on top of that, Greg hit many of the topics very well there, but there's a lot of financial I'm trying to think of the word, financial speakers out there who talk on different financial topics that recommend getting long-term care. Perfect time to buy is in your 50s, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 55. The one thing I would have to say about that is eligibility. Here you're sitting with two advisors that both own long-term care policies on us and our wives. I bought mine at 25, Greg got his in his 30s, and the eligibility for long-term care is a real thing, that how healthy you're going to be at 55 years old. Is it something that you can purchase? So the eligibility is a big thing, and if we can find someone who has that spendable income in their early working years, they can set that plan and really protect their family by having that health on their side, and it locks in a lower premium for a lot longer period of time.
Yeah, my wife and I got ours when we were 42, and the key is you can't buy long-term care and you can't sell it. They got to qualify, and they qualify with their health, and today is the healthiest day of the rest of your life. That's what I tell people. You know, I made my parents buy long-term care insurance. They didn't want to. It's too expensive. We'll never need it. It's an insurance company ripoff. I made them buy it. And 18 years later, they were both in assisted living. $10,000 a month. Now, they were teachers in small towns in Minnesota. There were years they didn't make $10,000 a year. $10,000 a month. And then I get a kick out of people who say, well, my wife will take care of me. I say, oh, really? Okay. Sir, I need you to lay down right here. No, ma'am, just come over here and pick him up and carry him downstairs, put him in the car. Well, I can't do that. That's long-term care. Or my daughter will take care of me. Do you really want your daughter giving you baths? I mean, you want your family managing your care, not giving you the care. And family members who actually give care, their life expectancy goes down. So the way I look at it, I call it anti-nursing home insurance. I call it stay-at-home insurance, and then have your family manage your care instead of give you your care.
Yeah, it does a lot of great things there between keeping your dignity and protecting your assets. You don't want your children coming over and taking care of you. You may think that now, but that requires a lot out of them, where they may be getting up time with their kids to then be taking care of you. So I think that's a big topic when looking at that, to make sure that you're doing what's right for your kids and your grandchildren.
So, you know, this show's all about helping young people build wealth. How about giving some tips to the young people out there, some things you've seen that have gone well or not well, and I mean, they have time on their side, so there's a lot of things young people can do, but how do you counsel your members?
Absolutely. So starting off, I think it really comes down, kind of earlier in the show, we talked about having a written plan, being disciplined, putting money away, pay yourself first. And if you can do those things, and it doesn't have to be $500 a month today, maybe it's today what's affordable is $90 a month or $100 a month to start accumulating savings or wealth in your retirement programs. So if you can sit down with a financial advisor and put together a plan, I think that'll be the best thing for you, is start early and have a written plan there.
I think, you know, you see it and hear it a lot, right? That the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be, right? So to Walker's point, right, when you're assessing your financial needs and your financial goals, looking at, okay, and doing that budget exercise, right? You know, you can start to identify areas where you can start to set something aside, and the earlier we start that, the better off, right? You know, it's definitely something you want to look at. You know, is there opportunities to do a Roth IRA? Is there opportunities to do Roth into your 401k, right? And then, of course, maximizing the match you have through your employer, I would argue, is very important as well, since they're going to be giving you, if it's 100% match, you want to take advantage of that. But when you start looking at your individual situation and you know, thinking about what tax implications could be in the future, looking at maybe also doing things, if it's a Roth basis into your 401k, if it's a Roth IRA outside of it, you know, if there's other areas where you're going to set aside funds, maybe diversifying and using different buckets. You know, there are a lot of different buckets, and I think it's important to assess what your goals are and how those different buckets where you can create value would apply to your goals.
It's really not as scary as what a lot of young people think. I think if you just dive in, find a competent financial advisor that you want to work with, find someone that you trust that you want to work with, they're going to point you in the right direction. Obviously, you're going to need a whole team of people. Maybe you need a tax advisor, but to bring in a competent group of individuals to help guide you through it, it shouldn't be a scary thing. It should be an exciting thing.
And I tell people it's the money you save in your 20s that allow you to retire in your 60s. And if people aren't saving in their 20s, they're probably not going to be able to retire in their 60s. The other thing I say is, you know, as you get pay raises, because most people over time get some pay raises, take half that pay raise and put it into savings and then spend the other half. But you know, people, they're going to get a pay raise in December, and by July before, they've already spent all that money, bought a new car or something. And so it's just about having some discipline as well, I think. Now, Father McGivney started this whole company. I mean, he's a pretty special guy. Tell me a little bit more about the history of all that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Father McGivney started the Knights of Columbus again to provide financial aid to the members and their families. And today we've grown to the largest Catholic lay fraternal organization in the world, right? And so within Catholicism, when someone's led a holy life, they can be put up to be declared a saint. So Rome would review that, right? And so Father McGivney's life has been scrutinized, and there's a devotion to ask for his intercession, right? So we say, Father McGivney, help me be a good husband and father to provide for my family. Help me protect my family. You want to learn, just like you might want to learn from a friend who's really good at tiling. Hey, Walker, will you teach me to tile my bathroom, right? Father McGivney did a good job of protecting families, right? So we ask for his intercession to help us protect families, right? And so in order for the church to declare someone a saint, they study their life and they look for a miracle attributed to their intercession, right? And so there was an unborn child that had a health condition, and the church has attributed this child being healed to Father McGivney's intercession, which was necessary to be able to elevate him to blessed. So he's blessed Father McGivney, and currently under review to be declared a saint by the church, which is when we believe without a question that individual is in heaven with God. So, it's really neat to look at the Knights of Columbus and to look back at our founder, who's blessed now and on his way to being declared a saint. And if anyone wants to learn more about, Father McGivney and his story, there's a great book, Parish Priest, as well as, resources online to learn a little bit more about that miracle that's attributed to his intercession.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. I know there's people out there, they want to get in touch with you. How can they find you?
Yeah, so it's real easy. You can just go to KofC.org and go to Find an Agent. And although we're agents for the Knights of Columbus, we don't cover all states. So you can find your agent by typing in your council number or by typing in your zip code if you're not a member of the Knights, and they'll have their information pop up right there on who your agent or general agent is in your territory. As for those local to Iowa, Greg's in Des Moines, I'm in Cedar Rapids, so we're happy to help when we can.
Right, absolutely. There's over 1,000 agents in North America working for the Knights of Columbus now, and we love to have the opportunity to sit down with your family and share a little more specifically about how the Knights and our insurance can help you. And then on the investment side, with Knights of Columbus Asset Advisors, we can work with anyone that's interested in investing in line with the values of the Catholic Church. So again, you don't have to be a member to learn more about the Knights of Columbus. We can work with any Catholic family, so you can always go to KofC.org and look that up. And with Knights of Columbus Asset Advisors, we can work with anyone that's interested in looking.
And let's be clear, it's K-of-C, not KFC.
That's right, KOFC.
Yes.
KOFC.org.
Yes, sir.
I speak for companies all over the world, and I'll tell you, I think I have about the most fun when I'm with the Knights. Very disciplined, all well dressed, all polite. It feels like I'm going back to the 1970s or 80s because you're all dressed great discipline, great family values. So thank you very much for sharing your story today, and thank you all for watching Tom Hegna's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.